Good morning. I'm your host, Dr. Phil Hoffman, Executive Director at WUCF. We're bringing you now a special program entitled Central Florida Helps, in place of this week's Metro Center Outlook. Our host, Diane Trees, will be talking to experts in child psychology about how you can share information with your children or grandchildren about the tragic events of the last week. And nowhere is there a better place for us to start this program than reflecting back on the words of Mr. Rogers.
I want to be part of the effort in addressing this tragedy that's struck Orlando. We don't want to be defined by this. We want to be defined by the response that we give to it. It's nice to see our community come together at this kind of time.
I'd rather spend my day off here sitting, waiting to donate blood to save someone's life than just watching the news and being like, I can't do anything to help. This is a way for me to do it.
Iowa Public Television joins public media from around the nation in expressing our sympathy and support for the community of Orlando. This unimaginable act of terror and hate affects us all. We join you in your shock, your grief, and in your loss. It was Martin Luther King Jr. who taught us that darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. We stand united with our friends at WUCF and the community of Orlando in driving out the darkness.
And now we'll begin the program, and once again, your host, Diane Trees. Diane?
Thank you, Phil. Our guests today are Dr. Judith Levin and Dr. David Parlapiano. Dr. Levin is an associate lecturer in the Early Childhood Development and Education program at UCF. Dr. Parlapiano is a clinical utilization manager with Community-Based Care of Central Florida. He works closely with victims of childhood trauma. Welcome. Thank you both for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you. With a tragedy that we've had, it's so horrific, even as an adult, it's hard to process. How do I sit down with my 11-year-old granddaughter? What demeanor do I need to have to help her?
I think for all ages and for adults, the really important part is for you, and your demeanor is going to set the tone, is to be calm and to be honest in what you were telling her. And what I think is very important for you to do is start by asking her, what does she know, what has she heard? And start from that foundation, and then ask her, what questions does she have? Because I think as adults, we tend to, process out loud. So we're going to be processing our emotions at our level to an 11-year-old or a younger child, where we really want to be there directly for that, for your granddaughter, for all children. So ask her what she knows, what she's heard, and what questions she has first. And then be as honest as possible. And when you don't know something, say, I don't know. And she may say, how could someone do this? How could someone not stop him? And the answer is probably going to be, I don't know the answer to that question.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that in
but
some questions.
But your manner is a very important part for setting the tone in how she's going to respond.
So just to add to that, I would just say, and I think Dr. Levin touched on that, be calm, be present, be open, because you are gathering information about what your granddaughter knows and doesn't know about this horrific event. And you're trying to be there as a support. So by setting the tone of calmness, you're teaching her that this is how we can cope and get through this terrible, terrible tragedy. And then being open to what she has to say about what occurred, what she knows, and just being receptive to that. And your presence of openness sets the tone for her ability to express herself, ask questions, or express the emotions that she might be experiencing.
What if I cry? Is that okay? How much do I share of my feelings? It's hard.
And I would say that. Crying is a very natural response to something that's hard, that's sad or happy. And so you don't want to hold in your emotions. You want to keep them at a at a level that's not a scary level for her. But for you to cry and say, don't apologize for crying, but to say, this is hard for me as well. This is hard for a lot of people. You're giving her permission, but you're also modeling what we do rather than saying, if I feel like crying, I'm going to either hold it in or apologize. And we should not apologize for that.
Yeah, and I think that would be my tendency to try to hold it in.
Well, the word that comes to mind is composure, that we stay composed but honest in that expression. Because if we go to an extreme, then we're kind of deviating from that calmness. We're setting a tone that's really amplified. So it's really composed and, again, open to what your granddaughter or any child is experiencing. And to certainly express our own feelings is very normal.
There are other adults in my household, and right now that's, we just talk. I think we need to talk about it anyway. But how important it is that for us to be mindful that there are children who may be listening into an adult kind of conversation. Is that something that we need to try to censor or be aware of?
Mindful is a really good word for that, because the answer is it's not censoring, but it's being cognizant of not they might overhear. They are going to overhear. They are going to be listening and watching. Children are going to be highly attuned to what is happening, and some of it's going to be the language. With young children, it's going to be the climate. It's going to be what they feel is going on. So even when you lower your voice and say it like this, what's going to happen is they're going to be even more frightened. This must be really bad if they're doing this and if it's a secret. So you want to be mindful, and so anything you're saying within earshot of a child needs to be something that you just assume that child is going to hear.
The initial reaction that most of us have experienced to this tragedy is shock. And it's hard to wrap our brains around what's going on and to make sense out of it. Imagine being a very young child trying to figure this out. They know something's wrong, but they don't know what it is. So to your point and to your question, we should be very mindful of the presence of children around us, because they're going to feel overwhelmed and overloaded. So we have to do our best to kind of pull things back in and scale back whatever exposure they're having to the event.
You talked briefly about this. You talked about how to open up the conversation. I was not sure, do I initiate that? Do I wait for her? Do I look for stress from her? How do you know what to do?
You initiate it. Don't assume that a child is going to, first of all, they may not have the language, and I don't mean by young child, they may not have the language or know what questions to ask. You want to say, I know that you're watching what's happening like we are. This is really frightening for us. This is shocking for us. Whatever words you're using, tell me what you're hearing about it. But you want to initiate, particularly if they don't. I would not wait for signs of stress. Stress is there, whether those signs are coming out or not. Stress is there, and oftentimes you may not see those signs for weeks or months on end, and they're still there, and it will come out at some point. But you want to help that process, and it's not a one day, okay, we've had that conversation. That's starting the process of how to handle it, what to do, what to know, what to ask.
Yeah, and just to add, I'm not an expert on terrorism, but I do know that it's all about fear, and it's instilling fear in us. And I think by being open to the discussions, by asking questions, by being willing to engage in dialogue with our children, we're demonstrating to them that we're not afraid, and we're not afraid of their feelings and what they're going through. I'm sorry, I'm a little emotional myself.
It's hard.
Yeah.
You brought up a good point. When I would begin with my grandchild, my inclination is to start talking and tell her. You said ask her what she knows and then take it from there. So when I begin, I let her take the lead, correct?
You would introduce the topic, the issue, what's going on, and then you would, and you would, like we do with conversations, we would say, what do you think? You would say, what have you heard? What do you know? What are you wondering about?
Is there terminology that you would recommend, words to use or phrases, or is it just be yourself and be honest?
When you say terminology, do you mean terminology surrounding what occurred at the event?
Do I need to include phrases of comfort? Do I need to keep stressing you're safe? Do I need to say those words, or is it just my talking to her? I don't know what to do.
I think it's both. I think you have to say those words, and again, your presence and your demeanor, your presentation has a lot to do with how the child's going to respond to that. But yes, the words matter too, because we want to offer words of comfort, words of reassurance. We're going to get through this. There are things we're doing to keep you safe. There are things that society is doing to keep us safe. And like in all situations like this, we adjust, we learn from them, we make changes to move forward, and hopefully to move forward in a positive direction.
You said it's all right to say, I don't have the answers. I'm sure that part of the questions are going to be, why did this happen? Why would someone do that? So my response could very well be, I don't know. I have no explanation for this. And that's okay.
We don't know, and actually, starting from Sunday morning, when we had various people from the state and from the government coming in, particularly the police officers, and they were very honest. They were calm, and you know inside they're not calm, but they maintained their composure when they spoke to the world. It wasn't just to a child, to the world, and they said, we don't have all of the answers yet. We are looking into it to find out what we can learn, and then we will let you know. It was really quite well done. And that would be a model, actually. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, we have no idea. How did this happen? Where was everybody? What's going on? The rest of the world is saying, we've got to get this in place, and there's a little more panic on that end. But the model is actually the way that was presented to the media is, and that was to the media, that was to all of us, is really, I think, a good model for how to do it, because they didn't have all the answers yet. But they said, we are investigating. We will let you know as we know. And they also said, we will get back to you at whatever time it is. And that's the other thing, is to tag back and say, let's talk about it again at the end of the day and see if we learn anything more.
Yeah, this is not a one-size-fits-all situation, and we can offer tips, and they're valuable tips on how to help children get through this and how to help ourselves get through this, because it affects all of us. It really does. But at the same time, I think the fact that compassionate, caring people are demonstrating that to their children, to say, I don't have all the answers, and sometimes we just don't. And the best we can do to explain it is this was maybe a sick individual, or something went horribly, horribly wrong, and a lot of people suffered as a result of it and are suffering. But that's sometimes the best we can do under those circumstances. And we're not always going to have just the right word at just the right time, but just showing that I'm open to this discussion. I'm not afraid to go there with you and to experience this with you. Goes a long way to supporting and then sort of recalibrating where we are in terms of coping with this terrible tragedy.
Thank you, Diane. We'll be back with more conversation in just a minute. We started this program with a quote from Mr. Rogers about looking for the helpers. One of the things we've been doing here in the last few days at WUCF TV is we've been looking for the helpers. Here's some examples of folks in Orlando who are rising to meet this challenge.
Central Florida, and Orlando in particular, is very fortunate to have a really incredible community regarding the different LGBT organizations. So we've been working with the Center, Zebra Coalition, Hope and Help Center, so many incredible organizations that we've all come together, along with the City of Orlando and law enforcement. And now, more than ever, it's so important that we come together through love and compassion, and we grieve together, and we mourn together, but we also move forward together.
In light of last weekend's events, we are providing emotional support to anyone that calls or contacts us in any way. We're also connecting people with community resources. We're here for the Central Florida community and want to provide this support as best we can.
If you are experiencing grief, especially during a time like this, it's very important to get that out and not let that sit in your heart or in your mind. because the longer it stays unaddressed, the more impactful it can become over time. It is the perfect time to seek help. You know, don't let those feelings of I can do this myself have to take over. There's plenty of support right now to make sure that you're not alone in dealing with anything you feel faced with right now.
One of the things that we're trying to do here at WUCF TV is provide that continuing safe space for your children. So when we made the conscious decision this week to continue children's programming throughout the course of the day uninterrupted, and we are not running any announcements about any of the news during the course of our regularly scheduled children's programming, but we will continue to bring you during the evening hours updates and information about what's happening here in the city of Orlando. One of the things that's always a challenge during the course of an event like this is continuing media coverage, and certainly while essential to know what happened and why it happened, it can also be problematic as well, not only for adults but for children. Diane is going to continue down the conversation to talk about what you can do about all that media coverage. Diane.
Let's address that right away. The media coverage is extensive, understandably so, but there's social media, the magazines, the newspapers. What's appropriate? What's healthy exposure for our children?
I'm going to start with the young child. And so I'm talking about the preschool age and early elementary age, and really no exposure. No exposure. The TV needs to be off unless you're looking at programming that is not going to have breaking news flashing with the photos of everything that's happening. And that does not mean don't talk about it, because the world doesn't protect our young children. But really the exposure has to be, if you can have no exposure during that time, have no exposure whatsoever. It's frightening when we hear it on TV that the voices are raised. They're not the same calm, composed manner that we're talking about discussing it with our children. So we want to have the exposure off completely during this time, and then to broach it with our children.
And then kind of moving on to older children, I think just being cautious about not, because we all become very in tune with the media and what's going on. We want to know as much information as we can about the situation. So inadvertently, we might leave the TV on excessively, and it's running these stories over and over again, and children are running around. They could be very young children or even older children, and they're seeing and they're being exposed to these stories over and over and over again. And ultimately, that's not going to help them to move beyond it. That's not going to help them to move beyond the fear that they feel. If anything, it can heighten anxiety.
Now, you mentioned the attitude with the fear, but I think even as adults, a lot of us harbor the fear and the uncertainty of what's happening. So how do I not convey that myself? Is there a right way to, am I allowed to admit that? I don't want to do the wrong thing here.
What's really difficult is we want to say to our children, we will keep you safe. And our children, especially as they get older, will say, how? How can you promise that you can keep me safe? And the answer is we can't promise. So it's very much like in schools, and I use this a lot with children when I say we have fire drills so that if there's a fire, we've practiced already what to do. So we have a plan. And a lot of what we say is, it's scary. It's scary for all of us. So let's think about what would we do? What kind of plan would we have if, and whether it's a fire in the house or a situation, our children aren't going to be in a situation at a club, but they're going to be in other situations. What plan could we have in place? And we also talk about that we have things in place already to keep us safe. We lock our doors at night. We make sure that we count before we get in the car. We buckle our seat belts. All of those are ways to help to keep us safe. And so you can say it is scary and we can't plan for everything, but we do the best we can.
And that's a very constructive way to approach it with like that. With the vigils that are taking place, the memorials, is it appropriate, is it healthy to take children to those events?
I mean, they're so important to our healing process. We need those kinds of rituals. We need to be around other people for support. But as parents, it's really up to the parent, because if they're in tune with what their child's needs are, they're going to be selective about what their child participates in or what they don't participate in, or what they, as the adults, want to participate in as far as those events go. So it's really a judgment call. I think it has to be very selective on the part of the parent. There are other opportunities, as we've seen throughout our community, to engage and to do something to make a difference. And the people closest to this tragedy are going to need those things, those vigils and other memorial ceremonies to get through it. But the more removed you are, I think it really becomes a selective decision on the part of the parent, and it has to do with how engaged the child is in this process, and are they capable from a developmental standpoint and emotionally to handle that. Because while there are certainly many uplifting aspects to that, it can be very somber as well. So just being selective and cautious.
I would like to say that this is an isolated incident. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with stating it that way to a child. But what do I do? If this happens a month somewhere across the world with the media coverage and that, we might need to readdress this again. What do I say? Do I even bring that up? Of possibilities? Do I leave that? Do I just say we're all concerned? I don't know.
Well, I know we're focusing on what happened at Pulse, but if we think about what this last weekend, few days has been like for Orlando, it has happened again. And it hasn't happened at the magnitude that we're looking at it, but through a child's lens. How could that happen to someone that had been on The Voice? How could that happen? And then the other piece is, from a child's lens, how could a child be taken by an alligator? And they will say, how could they do that? Where was his mommy and daddy? And so we're thinking big. But our child's world is not the global world that we're thinking about, because if we think that way, then San Bernardino, we have a whole Virginia Tech, we can go back and see one after another. But for our children, it's what's happening in their world, which is here. So it's not just Pulse, it's been one hit after another. And depending on the age, a young child's egocentric. So it's their perspective of how they're doing it. So they're not focusing on being at a nightclub. They're focusing on a child that was at a lake or at a beach, and an alligator took him. And so it does happen again and again. So your question is, what if it does? Well, it really has here. And I think we need to continue, and I'm going to defer to you on this one,
Sure.
but continue to have the same language and certainly maintain our children's routine. So the routine would not be we all stay at home and watch the news. The routine is, okay, now it's time to get up, have breakfast, we're going to camp or we're going to school, because that's going to keep our child feeling secure that my world right now is still continuing as it is in spite of what's happening. And we'll talk about what's happening as well.
Yeah, the reality is that some of the tragedies, in addition to this one that Dr. Levin mentioned, they create kind of a dissonance. I call it a dissonance. Psychologists call it a cognitive dissonance. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't fit with our view of the world around us and the reality. We live in the happiest place on earth, and this happened in our own backyard. It can only serve to create confusion, and helping our children to sort through that and to understand, back to what you asked, is this isolated? Well, it's not necessarily interconnected. All those events, the tragedy with an alligator doesn't relate to what happened at Pulse, but they add up and they contribute to our anxiety and fear. And the best we can do is to say, we're going to get through this. We're going to strengthen as people, and we're coming together, and you see that all around us. And that's the message, I think, that gets imparted, whether you have a very young child or an older teen who is maybe more invested in what's going on. They see that coming together, and it's a very healing process.
I think that this is an opportunity to talk to our children about understanding and tolerance. Thank you both so much for being here and sharing your expertise with us. It means a lot. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Diane, so much for hosting this important conversation. Again, I'm Phil Hoffman, Executive Director here at WUCF TV. I want to encourage you to visit our website, wucftv.org. We have resources, including important resources for your children there about how to talk to them about these kinds of events in their lives. In the meantime, we have been thrilled this week. One good thing that came out of this trauma was our colleagues from all over the country want to do something to help us here in Orlando, and they've sent us some very powerful messages. Thank you for joining us.
We at New Mexico PBS extend our heartfelt condolences, our thoughts, our prayers to the community of Orlando in the aftermath of the horrific events of June 12th. We must open our hearts and learn to accept each other through our differences and embrace the unique nature of every community, every person. Because through our acceptance of our differences, we will see that which we have in common. Orlando, we are united with you.
Hi, I'm Bishop Tom Ely, the Bishop of the Episcopal Church in Vermont.
I'm Stan Baker, and I'm a deacon in the Episcopal Church, and I live here in Shelburne, Vermont.
We've just been part of the vigil here today, and we want you to know in Orlando that we stand with you. We stand with you, Orlando, through this great and difficult tragedy in which our hearts and our prayers go out to you, and our commitment to action go as well.
My husband and I, Peter and I, were plaintiffs in the civil union case called Baker versus Vermont that resulted in the civil union and eventually in gay marriage here in Vermont. I know that the love of two men is sacred. I stand with that, our church stands with that, and we stand with you, Orlando, in moving forward to a new day.